Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that each of you have had a fantastic holiday with the 4th of July. If you traveled, hopefully you had safe travels and stayed safe. If you also engaged in any firework festivities, hopefully you also stayed safe. I read an article the other day, which was unfortunate. There was a gentleman who lived in Maryville, and he was shooting fireworks, and one blew up in his chest, and he passed away, which was awful to hear. I didn't read all of the articles, so I don't know how old he was or anything, but that was just super tragic. So hopefully everybody stayed safe, and you're back to recovering from your holiday weekend. What I would like to do today is go over some of the feedback that I have presented for your outlines. I have provided all of you with customized, in-depth feedback for just areas of improvement, what you could do better in, and what you did well with. What I generally like to do is give you feedback as an individual, which I have wrote on Momentum. And then I also like to take the time to just go over everything as a whole, because even if there was something that you may not have missed this time, maybe you just were unsure of, it's just still helpful for everyone involved. I, of course, would never call out anyone individually. If you have further questions, I'm more than happy to speak with you and schedule a time to chat. But I just like to go over what I have found overall. So the outlines, they do have to be written in a kind of a specific way, and it does sometimes take a time or two for everyone to kind of get the hang of things. If you have never done an outline before, those of you who have done outlines, usually they come pretty easy, just second nature. But if it's something that you have never done, then it may take a minute for you to kind of adjust to how the structure is expected. But the first thing I want to go over is the sources. Some of you did not cite sources at all. Just as a reminder, you do have to cite at least 3 sources. You have to have a works cited page, and then you also have to include an in-text citation from your outline. So, for example, according to Bob Smith at springwater.com, then you would actually put something from the article. And then you would elaborate in your own words, sort of just like if you're writing a paper. So there has to be a small section from the article, and then in a quotation, and then you can also expand and write more to back up your own with your own wording. There has to be 3, and all 3 of those have to be different. They cannot be the same sources. You can have multiple things from one source, but that still is just one source. I saw 1 or 2 people that had listed the same source twice and counted that as one of their 3 sources. Unfortunately, they do have to be different. That does not count as your 3rd source. I also noticed that someone put in parentheses when they were citing the sources. The source was technically cited correctly, but they did not put the website or the author where the source came from. Instead, they put the first word of the article. That is not how you properly cite a source. You would want to put the author or who actually, like the organization or wherever it came from. And again, all of this takes time. It does not happen overnight by any means. All of these things take practice. So be gentle and patient with yourself if this applies to you. If this does not apply to you, then just take it with a grain of salt and move on. That being said, when you are actually presenting your speech, you are required to cite your sources during your verbal presentation. If you do not cite your sources while you are verbally speaking, that is technically considered plagiarism. So, for example, if you are talking about diabetes, maybe you have a mother or father or relative, somebody that's a diabetic, and you've been around that your entire life, so you know the ins and outs of diabetes. If you mention something about glucose or checking your blood sugar or what to eat whenever you have a sugar spike or if your sugar's low, you may know that. That may be secondhand knowledge because you are around your parents who are diabetics. But you still have to cite a source. Anytime you mention any type of information, some sort of statistic, even if you know it and it comes second nature for you, your audience doesn't know it. Your audience needs to be able to go back and figure out where this information came from if they ever want to research or explore further. And so you as the speaker, it is your job to also cite that up. And again, if you say something, you have to give an article, an author, you have to give credit where it is merited. Otherwise, it is considered plagiarism. So there were some of you who mentioned some fantastic information, amazing sources, amazing content, but you did not cite a source. So keep in mind, you have to cite a source for any information that you reference. You are more than welcome to cite more than 3 sources if you need to. You don't want your sources to overpower your presentation because, of course, your presentation should be your own words, your own content, your own personality, your own creativity. The sources are used to support what you are saying. But just make sure you have at least 3 and that you give credit where necessary. You do also have to have a works cited page. So you want to cite your sources in the body of the outline and then also have the works cited page. There were also a couple of you who had extremely short responses on your outline. I have already gone over this amongst the other requirements for the outlines, but since I did notice a few people that were still not following instructions, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't from a lack of clarity because all of these things are important to do, but that's kind of why I wanted to revisit it. I said in the initial video of the instructions for the outline, do not by any means have short word responses. Every section needs to have full and complete sentences. This is not like, the outline is not meant to be notes to you as the speaker. The outline is intended to be a professional document. It should be just like as if you were submitting a professional essay or a professional paper. It is intended to still be a guide. You can reference it and know what you're going to say by going through it, but a complete stranger also needs to know that too. So you don't want to put bullet points. You also don't want to put vague responses. And what I mean by that is it should be something that is specifically customized to your speech. It should not be something that somebody else could fill in the blank for. For example, we did an introduction speech as our first speech. It is already implied that this is an introduction speech. I already know that you are going to introduce yourself to the class. I already know that you're going to tell me a little bit about yourself. Those things are already implied. And those are the types of phrases that I want you to avoid. If you put something along the lines of, to introduce myself to the class, any student could use that, no matter what it's about. And that's what I would like for you to avoid. Be creative. Use your own personality. If you are going to discuss how you play soccer, then your title and your topic would be something related to soccer. It should be related to the specific things that you are going to be sharing with the audience about yourself. I also want to mention, I believe there was one person that did not have a PowerPoint. Your PowerPoint is required. It is required for you to have it visible, and it is also required for you to upload the link in addition to actually having your presentation. If you do not have the PowerPoint, you will lose points. You are also required to dress in formal attire, and I need to see your full body length. I know it seems a little weird since we're on video. It's a little bit different than the traditional classroom setting, but it is required that you dress up in business attire. So in order for me to be able to evaluate your overall speech delivery, which I did post a video for you guys to watch about that. I am going to dive into that a little bit deeper though in the next video. But you want to make sure that you are in professional attire. And I need to see all of you, not just from here up. I need to see from head to toe because I need to evaluate your speech delivery. There are multiple elements that are involved in your speech delivery, such as body language, hand gestures, eye contact, facial expressions, and I cannot get a good observation of that without seeing your full body. So please make sure that you are in a position so I can see all of you for the entire duration of the speech. I already went over that. I did notice on the outline, some of you were talking to yourself. Like, this is where I tell the audience, blah, blah, blah. Or you also some of you may have also wrote out an actual paragraph like you would read it to the audience. Hi, my name is Amy. Today I'm going to be talking about, please do not do that. Again, it needs to be a professional document, but you don't want to write out your entire speech verbatim. It does not need to be written word for word, and it does not need to be written in a way that it's just notes to yourself. Again, it should be a professional document, just like you're submitting a professional paper. I'm not really sure why there was, I think, 1 or 2 people that actually deleted a few sections. Please do not delete anything. The assignment is not negotiable. Every section that is on the outline serves a purpose, and it is all needed. I believe someone had deleted the recap of main points. That is required, and it is different than your final summary statement. So if you have any questions or you're not sure about what those mean, please reach out. The summary statement at the end is like 1 or 2 sentences that does summarize the entire outline, the entire speech. And then the recap of the main points is you want to revisit the 3 main points, but you can reword it a little bit. You don't need to say it exactly like the body of the outline, because the more that you say things, the more variation in the way that you word things, then the more likely that you are going to reach more people and that more people will process and understand your message. And that's the goal. So if you're talking about soccer, your internal preview would be, today I'm going to talk about my high school years, my middle school years, and my college years of soccer. And then the recap of main points would be similar, but it needs to be reworded a little bit different. Today, now we're going to wrap things up, and we have discussed how I began my soccer career, how I fell in love with it during my middle school years, and how I continued to follow through with my passion into my high school and college years. So you want to switch it up, but it is important that no matter what you do, you always follow the structure of the outline. Every single section is required. Please do not delete anything. Your verbal outline your outline should translate that you have on a written outline. All of those things need to be included in your verbal presentation. The transition statements, the attention material, the credibility statement. Every single section needs to be said verbally as you are giving your presentation. I also wanted to mention the attention material and the final memorable thought. Those are similar, but they need to be different. So if you decide to use a quote for your attention material, then use something else for your final memorable thought. Don't use another quote. For example, you could use a photo or a music clip, or you could have a prop like a book or something. But I don't want to see a photo for the attention material and then another photo for the final thought. Again, the key is to have variation throughout the presentation. So please don't do the same once. Some of you did put transition statements on the outline, but as you were giving your presentation, you did not say those. Please make sure that you do that, because if you're talking about main point 1, then you transition to main point 2 without giving the audience the heads up. Now that we've discussed my high school years of soccer, let's talk about my college years of soccer. So if you don't say some sort of sentence to bridge the gap of the two topics, your audience is still going to be over here on main point 1 when you're already on main point 2, and your audience is like, what just happened? So it's important to make sure that you set the foundation in place for the direction of your speeches, for the direction of your presentation, because you are guiding the audience and you want them to follow along with you. So you want them to be on the same page where you are as well. And then just like I said with the sources, just make sure they're different. They're not the same. You do need to have 3 sources. And again, make sure that you say those verbally. And then no matter what it is, just don't delete it. Please keep the same outline template that I have and use the same outline template. I did see 1 or 2 people that kind of created their own and they reworded things and they changed things around. Please don't do that. Please make sure that you keep the same outline template. But aside from that, those were just a few key areas where people needed areas for improvement. But aside from that, everybody else, even aside from those that did have errors, you still did phenomenal on the other sections. And everybody did not have areas for improvement in all of these sections. These are just a few of the things that I collected grading cumulatively. But for the most part, it seems like everybody has mostly got the hang of it with just a few tweaks. But if for some reason you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You are more than welcome to send me a text message or an email. But hopefully you take this advice and you implement it for your next outline. Just make sure that each section has at least several sentences, especially your subpoints. Your subpoints are the bulk of your outline. You do not have to say every single detail, but you need to have enough details. If you just write a paraphrase or one sentence, there is not enough information to give the reader for them to know exactly what you're going to talk about. So at least try to have several sentences on your subpoints. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I am here to assist. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thank you.